Hey, Kevin, can you hear me?
How's my audio?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good.
Tolly is trying to get on. He is like on a slow connection. And I see Kevin's online, but he's on mute. Has anyone talked to Rob today?
No, but he was on GitHub like an hour ago.
Okay. Yeah, I saw him doing stuff. Why don't we give him another second and then maybe we'll get started. Or I can ping him.
How's it going?
Good. How are you, Tolly?
Doing all right.
Cool. I just got into, I just got back from Baltimore like half an hour ago. When are you back in town, Tolly? Another week or so?
I'm back on Monday, but then Andrew and I are going to AGU, the American Geophysical Union. It's a meeting that's going to be for a week, and we're actually giving a talk. We're giving a talk on website monitoring.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So I'll be back actually not this Friday, but the following Friday.
Cool.
Find grad students with spare time and an interest in learning web development.
Exactly.
Based on the PyData stack, they make the best long-term maintainers. Got a couple years.
Yes, we should have. Yeah. Okay, should we get started? I didn't hear back from Rob. Might be hung up on something.
Yeah.
Why don't I share my screen? Can people see that? Cool. Okay, so attendance is, agenda notes. So we had our UI and design convention discussion standards on Monday, which is good. Some really good stuff came out of it. I made a ticket or a issue in GitHub. And totally, just so you know, I'm going to start using the web monitoring repo as like the the product managing repo, which it always sort of was, but we weren't really using it effectively. So I'm going to start. If anyone has something for me to do concerning the web monitoring software part of the project, just issue me tickets and then we can track it. And then, right, okay. And then I shared the different notes. Dan, I wish, and we can circle back with Rob, but basically what I did there was I sort of highlighted stuff where stuff was like potentially an analyst wouldn't have found the change that would have alerted them to something. And so that's the stuff we should mostly focus on. And I know you can't like hardwire or hard code, fixes, but if those findings are useful for you, Dan, then we can start like
Did you drop off? What's
no,
happening?
I'm still there. Do you want to take a look at? Sorry.
Okay, so I just pulled up. Chrome is laggy these days. I just pulled up this. It's been on my list to look at this. Okay. So did anything?
Yeah, so I should have cut and pasted them to the top, which I can do after the call. But
did anything jump out as a pattern, or just like random issues, and we need to look at them harder and try to identify a pattern?
Yeah, there wasn't a random issue because sometimes it was like, I mean, usually the good thing is the significant changes were usually like a lot of text, right? So, but in one case it like sometimes it was just one important word, one important link that wasn't found. Sometimes it was like a large block of text was added and it wasn't caught. Sometimes it was, so I only found a handful and I could keep on looking, but in those cases, only a small, basically I couldn't find a pattern, so I can keep digging. Or would it make sense then to like re-pull the sample because you've been making changes, right?
No, not really.
Okay.
So the only changes that would affect this, but there haven't been any changes that would affect this.
Okay. So I'll keep on going with the stuff that we had already generated, and then.
Okay. Hey, Rob.
Hey.
Yeah, I think so. How many did you look at here? Looks like about 10.
Maybe closer to like 15 or something.
10 or 15. Okay.
Or close to like 15 or 20 something, but I can keep on going.
Yeah, I mean, it might help to get I think if we're going to see a pattern, it might help to get more as you have time.
Yeah, sure. I can try to plot through that. Cool.
But it sounds like as far as it goes, there is more work to do on this. It's not good enough that we're willing to stop using for the data. Is that?
I think as of today, yes, but we should, I mean, let me try to see if I can find more examples and see if we can find a pattern of what's happening.
Are you talking about that doc you posted with notes about how the current differ compares to Versionista?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to repost it in the Slack, Rob, if you don't have it up.
I looked at it the other day. You maybe just talked about this. Sorry, I'm late. What version of our diffing were you using?
So I was using the version from your branch that you haven't merged yet, like that second sample. Does that make sense?
Okay. All right. I'll take a look with that then, because I was just looking with what we have running that's been merged, and I felt like I got very different results for me.
Oh, okay.
You called back, so
Then we should make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Because just to make sure, because there were lots of sort of versions floating around, and they all sort of had the same folder name. So, okay.
Yeah.
But I'll follow up after the call on that.
I keep forgetting to ask. I've mentioned this, but never when someone was near a computer. Can somebody send me the Versionista logins at the end of this call? Because those got lost with my dead laptop. One of the few things that I didn't have backed up.
Okay.
I can do it. I can signal it over to you.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Then I can, when I generate them, it might be convenient to have the actual HTML of the Versionista page in that folder, so you can very quickly flip. That was my thought.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, it's in the link is in the README file, which is fine too. But
Yeah.
if it saves a step, that'd be helpful too. Okay. So yes. So Rob, you wanted to make the final decision on the AWS zone, West-1 versus US West-2. I don't have a particular stance one way, but Dan or others might. Or if you have a strong preference, Rob, but just wanted us to come to consensus.
I think the trade-offs are mainly cost versus being closer to where Internet Archive is, which to our best of our understanding is most of their servers are in the Bay Area. US West 1, I think, is Northern California, and 2 is Oregon. 2 is cheaper. 1 is closer to the Bay Area.
And we imagine that we're going to be serving Internet Archive content through Web Monitoring DB in the rendered diff view because we need to make some changes to it, like rewriting links. Is that right?
Well, I mean, if we were doing so, the only extent to which I imagine us, especially in the short term, talking to Internet Archive is ingesting data the same way that we ingest data from PageFreezer, or not PageFreezer, from Versionista. So I think once it's in our system at that point, we would treat it the same as Versionista. So we would keep a copy and we do our diffs and everything else against our local S3 stored copy.
I didn't think we were going to S3 store Internet Archive data, actually. I thought we were going to only reference it and fetch it when we need it.
I mean, we could. It's slower, but we totally could.
Slower but cheaper, right? Obviously, because then we wouldn't be paying for the S3 storage.
And the S3 storage in total of everything that we have accumulated over like almost a year is like less than $3 a month.
Okay.
Huh.
So
wait, so is most of the PageFreezer expense the compute then?
the PageFreezer expense is more because it's in more expensive storage type, and because there's no deduplication of anything, and whatever else about how they might be storing it.
Okay.
The vast majority of the price there is the storage, but the compute isn't cheap either. But the storage is probably 10 times the compute price.
Okay. Toli?
Yeah.
We're also not talking about storing anything but the HTML that we're diffing, whereas PageFreezer stores all the sub-resources and everything else, right? So you're storing every video file and audio file and image file referenced by any page, and you're storing a copy of it from every time you check the page, not just
Right. And with IA, the way you were thinking of it, we would store a copy of the HTML, but in that HTML are references to resources like images that are served by IA.
They'd be references to the original, and we'd have to rewrite them to IA references if we wanted to show IA references,
I see.
right? Because we don't want to diff IA content. We want to diff the original content.
When IA displays an image that it captured, doesn't it have to rewrite the source path of the image, source attribute of the image, to be an IA location instead of like a DOE location?
Right. Remember, when you're querying IA, you can ask for the original content or you can ask for the replayable content.
Right.
And
Okay.
the way we've written everything is to ask for the original content.
The original content. You're right.
Right.
I hadn't thought this through before.
I mean, we could ask for the replayable content, but I think we've been trying to, to be at a point where wherever we get the page source from, like if two different services acquired it at the same time, we should get something that is exactly the same. So if we
Right.
ask for the rewritten content, that won't be the case.
Right, of course. Okay.
So we should be looking at storing, comparing, diffing the original content, and then rewriting URLs in the outputted diff if we're using the diff for display versus using the diff for looking at the like diff source code or something.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. Toli, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm really delayed, and I don't want to. Seemed like a good conversation, so glad I didn't interrupt it. I guess my question was going to be about the analyst experience. Basically, I think that if an analyst has to wait for a Wayback snapshot to load, that'll just be quite unbearable. If it's the same rate at which anyone pings Wayback right now, I think that everyone will just quit and not want to do it because it's like sometimes can be like a 20-30 second delay, and Versionista is basically much, I don't know, an order of magnitude faster maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would really value that, and so if that means that we have to store things in AWS on the East Coast, because that's the center of mass of who would be using it, that makes sense to me. And then it kind of can go at a slower rate, moving things from Wayback into AWS. But I would be interested to hear about the trade-off between if we are offloading snapshots from IA, moving snapshots over from IA into AWS, and let's say everyone who's doing this is in DC. If we do that calculation, what would be the user experience versus the cost, I guess? Is that a reasonable way to frame it?
So I think latency across the country is not that bad. I mean, if we were really worried about optimizing performance, we would have stuff running both in an East Coast data center and a West Coast data center. I think that the vast majority of the timing issues you might see with Internet Archive are just that Internet Archive is an archival system that is storing unbelievable amounts of data. And if something is old enough or not accessed enough, it's going to have to go and do a lot of work to pull that piece of data up. And because we are storing much less and storing it in less fancy ways, we will never have that issue until such time as we decide we need to totally take a different approach to storage. But I don't think we will decide that because our purpose is pretty narrow. At least, it'll be a long time before we change that approach, I think. So I guess I would say it doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to matter that much for timing whether we're running on the West Coast or the East Coast. I think it's going to matter more that the data is local to our services rather than always coming from IA whenever we want to look at it. And also, we're talking about the difference between two West Coast data centers anyhow. So,
yeah, I mean, as long as we're talking about it, the reason not to use Virginia, I guess, is that it's by far the most expensive, if I remember right.
Virginia's cheap.
Is
Virginia's stupid cheap. Well, so Virginia and Oregon are the same price, actually.
Okay.
Oregon has slightly newer generation stuff. Virginia is cheaper, and absolutely every service that AWS offers is available in Virginia, I believe. So different services are more or less or not available in different regions. We're not using anything super fancy, so that's not really something we have to worry about. But like Virginia might have more high IOPS hard drives available than like Northern California or something, which doesn't matter very often, and it doesn't matter for us. But those are like the differences. So there's like narrow trade-offs in like available services, bigger trade-offs in price. I think that the bigger reason, not if you're going to base operations somewhere, not to base them in Virginia, is because that is by far the oldest equipment AWS operates, and by far the one that has the most failures. If you have other reasons to be in Virginia, like you want to interoperate with things running on Heroku, because Heroku is in the Virginia data center, then you can interoperate with them both quickly and for free. But I think that is, like long term, it probably makes sense to run in both data centers. But if we're going to pick one, I would rather not pick East Coast. I mean, we could also pick, I think there's some central US one.
Right. Because it sounds like the biggest
Something.
like issue for latency, just to repeat what I think I've heard, is talking for our servers to talk to Internet Archive, and then less of an issue for latency for the user, the end user, like the analyst, would be the serving of our pages to them.
Actually, I heard the opposite of that. That we're hitting Internet Archive sort of in the background, and it doesn't matter how much latency there is because we're fetching their content once and for all, and the user's not waiting on that process. Whereas when the user is talking to our app, it's just getting content from our app. So it's starting to sound like for the user experience, if all our users are on the East Coast, Virginia is the best choice, except it's not reliable. So now Pacific Northwest sounds good.
There are one or two other East Coast data centers, but I think they're more expensive. They're like the same price range as the Northern California one.
Like, how hard is it to move if we decide to go with West 2, but we find that it's too slow? Is the level of effort to move it to another data center?
It's expensive to do data egress. Probably
Okay.
pretty easy, but it costs something.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, once we have everything running in AWS instead of like Constellationified across Google Cloud and AWS, and Heroku, and wherever the fuck else, it's less hard to move it because we like RDS for data storage, and you can just tell RDS, like, make me high availability in all these data centers, and it will manage making the data everywhere, and then you can change that to a different set of data centers later and sort of creep your way from data center to data center that way, and not have to worry about shutting the whole service down for a few minutes or hours to migrate data.
Okay.
I would say migrating the data is the biggest thing, because the actual software services you can just run 5 instances of and change the DNS and have them slowly pop over. That's no big deal. It's moving the data around in S3 and RDS. That is hard or time consuming or has to be carefully coordinated.
Right. I know we're taking a long time to talk about this, but I guess it's really important. So, but is there a way to test to see what performance would be like, or it's not really hard to sort of predict?
I don't think it's worthwhile.
Okay,
I mean, we could.
right. I mean, you can do anything,
I
right?
agree with
Yeah,
that.
sure.
I agree
Okay.
with that. I think we should pick one and move on. But I
Okay.
think we'll understand the trade-offs better.
Right. So, are we looking at West 2 then, or where?
I would vote for Oregon, which I think is West 2. But wherever. We already have stuff running. Basically, we have our archives of versionista data are in Oregon, and our database for the staging server is in Virginia. I have not done the database for the production server yet because we haven't answered this question. And I didn't want to have to move it twice.
Right.
So I think what we're saying then, just to paraphrase, is we don't particularly worry about latency across the country for the user. We don't particularly worry about proximity to IA because we're doing the fetches in the background once. And so we're prioritizing reliability and price and to some extent inertia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could we write that down somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
writing it in
doing
the
it
notes now.
Thanks for summarizing, Dan.
Sure.
Yes.
And yeah, just explaining our decision. And yeah, I mean, I guess as long as latency to user is fast enough or no noticeable difference between East and West Coast, then that reasoning sounds fine.
Yeah. And I think our answer to, well, what about latency for the user is we'll probably want one on each coast eventually, if that ever becomes an issue. Here's hoping we last long enough as an organization for that to be an issue.
Okay. Great. So, Rob, Oregon. Okay. Just quickly, I'm going to pull up, sorry if we run up a little long. Do people have time or do people need to get, I won't try to go too long. Okay. Just quickly, so we don't have to go through this fully today, but I think what will be nice going forward is to use the waffle board for updates, just so we can start using it, leveraging this as a tool because it's set up and it's tightly integrated with GitHub already. So to kick things off, like I made a ticket or an issue to move a lot of the findings and the decisions we made on Monday into the contributor page. And so I'll work on that hopefully today or tomorrow. Does anyone want to give up their updates next?
Should we just go card
Sure.
by card through this?
Okay.
Or do you want to do person by person?
We can. Should we just do in progress and see how that? Why don't we do that? Does everyone will everyone's work be in progress? Because you have to label it, right? So.
Yeah, I'm not sure what moves it from ready to in progress.
I think putting a label, the in progress label on it, but I might be wrong because I'm sort of.
It's not that, because I've never put an in progress label on anything.
Okay.
Maybe if there's a PR attached? No, because there's a PR under ready.
Yeah. because I was totally going to say I think it's a PR, and then I saw that. Like, no, not that. It
Because
might.
I just made the issue like 81, and it just popped into in progress. So I don't know how I got it to go there.
I've noticed when I open up new PRs that there's like some auto thing that labels it in progress. It'll say like Rob, like Mr. or Rob, mark something in progress.
That's because I set up the Waffleboard account.
Yeah.
That's Waffleboard doing
So there's that.
based on whatever it's.
And then today, like I was assigning myself the Webpack issue, and then I labeled it in progress and then threw it in there as well. So that might be like how it's happening, PRs and issues. Like the PRs is like being automatically assigned in progress, and then if you like put in progress like issues and other things, it'll pop it in there as well. And so maybe these other PRs have that removed, the in progress label removed.
I can investigate it. Maybe I can look in the documentation or something to
Yeah.
see.
It could be that I manually removed the in progress label from 98, and that's why it moved over to ready, because it's not really in progress.
Okay. Okay. So why don't we just try to see how far we get quickly in progress, and then we can sort of take it from there. So first up is 157, Kevin.
That's actually me.
Okay.
It's confusing. It's got Kevin with a red ring because he reviewed it and said, "Screw you." I need to come back and do the additional work. So I avoided doing a whole bunch of refactoring of other components because I knew Kevin was also working on them. But Kevin basically said he'd rather see me just do that refactoring, and he'll figure out how to integrate it into his PR. So I need to do that.
Okay. Is 129 real Kevin or fake Kevin?
That's me. That's what Rob was talking about. So
Okay.
yeah, it's because like the decision that or like what the reason for him to do 157 was I was doing all weird stuff, so I can just roll back that commit, and then I'd much rather like incorporate this thing that makes the component that makes more sense, and then finish that off.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that.
Cool. So next up is render fancy diffs with truly horrifying code, which might be the best. Which might be the best titled issue.
I guess I need to come back around to that. So I have not had a chance to do any further work on that other than rebase it on top of everything, and I haven't even pushed that. So what needs to happen here is I need to clean out all the proliferation of insane logging. I should probably still keep some logging, but with an actual logger that has log levels, so it can be suppressed so that you don't get megabytes of logs when you diff a single HTML file. And then clean up to the degree possible. There's a lot of redundant stuff or stuff that I put in because I was trying it out that's not actually used anymore in it.
Right.
And I think there's future direction for this stuff, which is maybe we just fork the LXML HTML differ entirely, but I'm not going to worry about that in that PR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this another good question then? Is this really in progress then, or is it ready? Should we define in progress as like someone actively working on it, or do you want it there to sort of as a nudge?
I need to get back to this ASAP.
Okay.
But you're right, it's not in progress right now.
Okay. Why don't we move it to ready, but I'll put it on the top of the stack.
Sounds good.
If it will let me do that, which it doesn't seem to. Okay.
Oh boy.
I don't think it likes me maybe moving this while the screen sharing might be confusing it. Okay,
Okay.
So investigate Rails performance improvements.
I think maybe we should just close this.
Okay.
I guess I would consider it done to a pretty extreme extent in the place where we had a real problem when I did the crazy, really bad thing of skipping over the Rails ORM for page queries.
Okay. We can close that.
Yeah. So unless anybody else thinks this should stick around for abstract purposes, we should probably close it.
Cool. I can do that after the call, or someone can do it, but I can do it. And then what we'll do is, if it becomes a problem again, we'll open a new issue. UUDIs from Virgin Lisa links.
I think we need to hear from Dan on that one. So let's come back to it in a minute whenever he returns to the frame.
Okay. Add meta section to list responses with count of results.
I thought I closed this because we just merged the PR that went with it. So it should be closed.
Okay. Maybe I need to refresh this screen or something. Okay, handle. I'll look into 113. And the local file requests.
Oh, it's not closed. Sorry. So I should have closed it.
Okay.
I noted that it was fixed, and then I didn't close it.
Closing it
Closed
is the
now.
Right. Okay, it's good. Closing is what gives you the relief of like it being closed, and
I know.
You skip the best part.
I know. Well, I was dead certain I must have been much too tired last night because I like typed in because the guy who wrote the PR did not reference the issue, so it didn't auto close, and I just wrote like fixed in hash,
Right.
and I thought I hit the like comment and close button, and I must have just hit the comment button. I was like, and it's done.
Yeah.
And now it's in the list again. And I'm like, no.
So close. But now you get the pleasure of doing it twice, closing it twice. So maybe that's not something I should encourage. Okay. Handle local file requests.
I think that's you, Dan.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
No, it's not urgent. It just makes local testing easier, so I've deprioritized it. It should definitely finish. Call it ready or backlog.
Okay. So add diff for changes only HTML and text. Was this our Summer of Code programmer?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So should I move this? Is he?
Which one was that? It's not a great title.
They're all not great titles.
It's true.
That was because we I think we handled it in the UI, like changes only to show changes only.
This is different.
Oh, which one are you guys talking about?
Oh.
Add diff for changes only, right?
Oh, this may be the thing that Janak made because he was like, oh, maybe I should write a custom differ for this for the UI to use.
Which project is this even on?
Processing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see 4 pull requests on processing.
That one I think is an issue, not a PR.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you open the waffle board, you can also just click on them, I think. So.
Yeah. All right, I'm there. I mean, maybe we should close it. Where are we? Okay. Yeah. So I think your original comment on this, Rob, it stands. Like it's a UI issue.
Okay.
So we can close this.
Okay.
All right. I will do that.
Okay, great. 85 WIP machine learning work. What does WIP mean? Oh, work in progress, right.
But I think that work in progress has not had any work in like 2 months.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think like wherever we need to put that, we should put it.
Backlog?
Sure.
All right.
It's clogging up our workflow.
Can we, would it be helpful to have a special label, whether it's a category on here or not, for PRs that's like on hold or something? Because we've got a few PRs in different projects that are, like, if you look at the list of PRs, you expect that to be things actively working on or they don't exist, right?
Yeah.
But there's a few that are just sort of sitting there like, we prototyped out this thing and we need to come back around and finish it, but we're not doing that right now.
Intentionally
like,
so, yeah.
Yeah, like the timeline, or I don't know whether this deserves to be in that category or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then then it doesn't just look like there's a mess of like things waiting for like pull requests or long queue of pull requests that aren't being paid attention to. We're ignoring it on purpose.
Yeah,
I think if we had more capacity, I would be more aggressive about closing stale PRs or just fixing stale PRs. But because we don't have the capacity to really do that on the regular, I feel like it's socially good to let these things linger and then come back to them and hammer them.
okay.
Yes. Okay. So, but having it on hold would be
Yes.
helpful for that, right? Because we don't close it, we just let it linger.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. Import changes classification text.
So why don't we, everything that's a Janak issue,
Okay.
I will go through and either close or categorize on it.
Okay, cool. And then
Can I ask briefly, and if the answer is a long one, just say the answer is a long one and stop there. But it seems like Janak has just disappeared. Do you know what's up with that?
No idea.
Okay.
Is it worth me circling back to him? I'm happy to do that.
I don't know if we have the capacity to really provide the right amount of mentorship to actually be involved. So
Right.
If he wants to be involved, we're happy to help. If he doesn't want to be involved right now, let's let it be.
Okay, that's fine. Consider switching from Gulp to Webpack.
Yeah. So after like the conversation we had on Monday, I figured that's probably like the next best thing, just to get the project more in tip-top shape. So I'm working on that right now. So basically, I'm just going to run through a bunch of tutorials and figure out how to do it. I've been looking at the data together out there, just as an example. I had one quick question that you guys could probably help answer for me. But I noticed, because we're using Gulp right now it's like a task runner build process. And then I noticed for Webpack that there's usually a config for dev and a config for production. But our Gulp file, we only have like a single Gulp file. So I'm not sure like what I should be, is there something I should be looking out for? Like why? Our process seems simple enough that I'm not sure we need to right now, but I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
We should totally have two.
Okay.
It's a failing that we don't, in the Gulp file, it's a failing that we don't have a production build step. So we're sending to production dev style assets, which are much bigger than they need to be.
Okay. I'll have to look into it more, but I guess I understand that. That makes sense. Yeah. So that's why we only have one Gulp file right now. Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody did the work to do a production ready build.
Okay. That's
Well, we're going to need it soon, so, right?
Yeah. Another quick question then. So then, will the UI will that be moved to AWS too? Because right now it's running on Heroku. So will it? Okay.
Yeah, I think probably that would make sense.
Yeah. Is that? I don't
It'll
think.
probably be the last thing that we move.
Okay. So I don't think I'm working too hard right now.
Because it has the least requirements and reasons and whatnot to be on AWS versus Heroku.
That's good. I'll do the Webpack with deploying on Heroku right now. So this is how I'll think about it. Cool. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think there might be still things we could, in theory, talk about here, but I'm gonna, cause it's just in like service to the time, I don't want to go too much over, but hopefully we'll get the board sort of sorted out and streamlined and the things in their proper swim lanes going forward, and it's gonna be sort of a good way to sort of get quick snapshots of where we are and work that's in progress, and to track just how we can sort of move things along. Switching back just quickly.
I mean, it may be helpful just to say in there, like, because if we're not going through the list of things that are in Ready, my top priority thing right now is in Ready, which is the docs for the Crufty backfill tools, which seems like it shouldn't be a high priority, except that needs to get merged so that Kevin can finish his work on the other PR, that is the fixing of the thing for the versionista scraping, so that I can fix another problem with the versionista scraper that is an active issue that has a really shitty fix running on the scraper server right now that is like nowhere in version control because of this. So just
okay. What issue is that? Sorry.
49 in the Ready column.
Okay. So maybe that actually goes up top. And I'll play around with, I don't know if it does priorities or things like that.
I mean, for that PR, I don't know if you remember. I remember the comments I made. It was just like the paths were in the examples weren't working for me. Other than that, it's just like, oh, I don't know why. It was easy to fix for me to change it, but I wasn't sure why they were like the examples weren't working for me. Just the exact code, but everything else.
There were two things in there. So the paths weren't working for you because you just didn't have those paths on your computer. You could change them to whatever. I thought I commented to that effect, but if I didn't, I'm sorry. And then you asked about some stuff that appeared to be redundant, and you were correct that it was redundant. So I wanted to make sure I removed that so it was not confusing.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
is that cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then you said there was another PR that has to be merged too, and then this last thing that's just happening on your computer. What's the in between?
So the backfill docs are standing in the way of getting the versionista scraper fix for when versionista has update times.
Yeah.
Is that an issue? Is that document an issue? Okay.
That's probably somewhere in the Ready column also.
No.
It's not.
I can look for it. I know. Are you talking about the PR open to help with that fix? And then you just had to like push something on the server just to fix it, but not on the PR, right? Okay.
Okay. Just quickly for a couple minutes, I just wanted to quickly chat. Tolly, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Hey, because I'm sure it's getting late for you. Did you want to quickly just give an analyst update and also just quickly talk a couple minutes on Page Freezer?
Sure. Yeah, I have to leave in 8 minutes because there's a call. Not because it's late or anything. So quick analyst update is we sent out a report to journalists under embargo. It'll be released Friday. It's not a groundbreaking report, but it's kind of confirming some previous reductions of access to climate change adaptation plans on the EPA's website, and revealing some other removals of links to that plan from other parts of the website, sort of confirming that a systematic burying of this information.
And that was the greening
So-
EPA report, right?
That's right, Marcy
Okay,
Beck.
okay,
Was
yep.
lead off on that.
Great.
And other than that, the analyst team has met twice already to discuss kind of website monitoring team roles, which is going pretty well. And quite a few analysts have stepped up and said they want to participate and get more engaged in the team. So it'll be exciting to have them more engaged and helping run and a lot of responsibilities. You can follow along in the team channel. I think Marcy dropped the notes from our last meeting there. As an attempt to partially address Dan's existential comment from earlier, it's very likely that Andrew and I are actually staying on for another semester. Our program is flexible with it, and we decided that it's worth seeing some of this work through, and also we're exploring other options with Sunlight to try to expand website monitoring efforts beyond environment, climate. And talk about that later as well. So anyway,
That's awesome. And I can
that's
sleep
like-
a little better now.
hopefully that's maybe like a singular ray of hope, Dan.
Yeah.
But
That's good.
Oh,
I'm
man.
not too worried. I'm mostly being sardonic. I think we'll be.
no, it's cool. I think we all feel these things.
Some separation anxiety.
Exactly.
No.
Yep. But then, so I think that largely covers. There's the 1 year report is going to go out first week of January. I'll just keep saying that. This guy, Stephen, forget his last name. Stephen works at Northeastern. He'll be taking lead on trying to get some visualizations going to present edgy reports in like a holistic way. So we'll see what he puts together. I kind of didn't put a lot of pressure on him. Said like it'd be great if you get something, but if not, no worries at all. So follow along in the design channel if you're interested in that. In terms of Page Freezer, thanks for everyone's comments. I sent out that letter of intent yesterday. Haven't heard back, but Michael Reddick, CEO Page Freezer, is traveling this week, so I guess they probably want him to sign off on it. So potentially we'll have to wait till next week to actually get this done. But I do think it's worth the extra week or so in costs to make sure that we are communicating well. And Rob, your points are well taken. I know there's been a lot of frustration around this collaboration we were all very optimistic early on, and it seemed like a good thing to do. Maybe we didn't have a lot of information to know that it was going to be not this unuseful, I guess. But I still want to make sure that we put in a lot of effort into this, and we should see it through and make sure that we leave on good terms with them. So that's why I kind of wanted to make sure that we continue to have this relationship with them, and I hopefully address some of those issues with the letter of intent by saying like our next steps in Edgy is to work with the Wayback Machine, not Page Freezer records, and I'll continue communicating that because that's what we're going to be doing. So I don't want them to think otherwise.
Right. That sounds good. And for Brendan's work, I guess it's on hold. I just want to sort of see, because to one way is a point, right? If like they're going to do this, conversion, they're probably more suited because they created their archival system. But I'm also cautiously optimistic too, just because it's been a complicated relationship. And so, I do want him to be sort of at the ready as well in case they sort of drag their feet on the letter of intent or more importantly, like switching over control of the payments because, just again, we're burning money we don't have. But are there other feelings about the urgency? We can reevaluate that.
Yeah, I second that, Ray.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I think totally is at 3 o'clock and we've run long. We might also breach that we've been going long, and I'm not sure if it's that there's more to talk about or we need to be more, disciplined about keeping it to half an hour, but we can talk about maybe we should be scheduling a little more time on some of these conversations because everything we talk about seems really useful, but maybe it's that we need to sort of move things offline and it's more 1 or 2 people, but because we're so distributed, these updates I think are helpful for spreading around information, even if they're not directly related to someone's work. But I'll broach that after the call to see if we want to formally make the meeting longer or not, depending on people's schedules too, of course. But other than that, thanks everyone. We have action items. I'll try to update this and circulate the findings, and then we'll take it from there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
See everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye.